Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where right now is 14:15 in the, well, afternoon, or depending on how you see it, right? It could be the post-lunch in some cases, and somewhere in the world it will be the early morning, but right here, right now is 14:15, so quarter past 2 in the day. Let's just say day, let's just put it at that. And something quite funny happened yesterday. I sent out my intro to some friends, some mates, yeah, not telling them about this channel because, I'm still don't want to do that. Anyway, and I sent it out, and I was so happy about my animation skills, right? Because I could go into Marvel, I could go into Disney, probably, right? And make all of the movies, because I have the animation skills of a god. Anyway, so I sent that out there, and one of my friends' first response, like initial response, was like, "That looks exactly like the Reddit avatar," and I was like, "What's Reddit?" No, okay, I didn't go like, "What's Reddit?" But I thought that, look, what, no? What? No, 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 no. Is that where my inspiration came from? I didn't even know that Reddit had an avatar. So that was all, irritating, to say the least. But I sent it out to a few more, and they are on Reddit, and they didn't think that it looked anything like it, or that it maybe looked a bit like it, but that it was still a distinct difference. So probably not trademarked, am I right? So probably not any legal disputes over that, over, my videos and the giant of Reddit. Anyway, mates, let's move into it, because today, mates, is one of them in-between days when it's not necessarily the time to start with a new project, because we have the Saturday news recap tomorrow. So what good would it make? Am I right, people? Am I right? And, well, I can't just, have nothing today because, daily upload schedule. So today I thought I was going to do something that I said I was going to do over the course of the videos of the questions. And I know that we've been breaking it up one day now because yesterday wasn't about this, and this video probably should have been yesterday. But anyway, mates, today we're going to take up the top 12 things to look at when making a question. And why am I saying the top 12? Well, because those are the top 12 reasons, or the 12 reasons rather, that I came up with when it comes to making a good question that is not too hard and not too easy, but just in the middle there, just in between. But I came up, as I said, with 12 different ones. So how are we ranking these? Well, let's begin from the bottom and go to the top. Number 12 then. Use response scales whenever possible. This is all about, I made entire videos about this. If you think that I'm going to give sparse information regarding the different points here. But use respondent scales whenever possible is basically a saying that, well, instead of you saying a objective fact, say how you feel. That's basically the idea behind it, right? And you can always rely on, as the respondent, that it's just my opinion. And this was covered in video 7 in this little series. To use respondent scales whenever possible, it comes in at place number 12. Place number 11 is avoid using grids and metrics for responses. And this is yet again, these two are mainly, they're mainly when you're doing surveys, these 2 points. So that's perhaps why they're getting at the bottom, because they're not that interactional. And this is all about trying not to overflow people with information. Try not to just force information on them, right? Because that is generally not the bestest of ideas. People will just be like, no, I don't get it. Because you've just shoved in lots of questions there, and you're just sitting there thinking that, well, I only got half of it, right? And that is video number 8 in the video series. On place number 10, it comes in ethical questions implications, and this was the 12th video we made. And this is all about trying to avoid racial bias. It's trying to avoid preemptive assumptions. One can argue that this should be number 1, but yet again, keep in mind that this is just my list, and this is one of the points that I came up with. The 12th and 11th, the 3rd point and this 10th point is points that I've made up myself, so they're kind of sub points to other points, just to keep that in mind. But it's all about not having preemptive assumptions, not having a biased perspective when you start, and always considering the ethical implication of when you're posing a question. Is the person that you're going to ask the question to going to need to, interact with their own ethical behavior or their own morale? Do they need to disagree with their own ethical standards in order to answer the question? So you should try to avoid that, or at least think about the ethical implications when making a question. Number 9 then, and that was the 12th video. Number 9, ask direct questions. And this is the 3rd video in the video series. And direct questions is all about, direct questions. In order for people to being able to answer what your question is, they should know what your motive behind the question is. So you need to make it direct enough so that people know that, well, this is what the person is actually asking for. Because if they don't know that, then, well, they can give any possible answer at all. Everything between A and Z, and you will be like, what? How? What? You need to be direct enough so that the question doesn't look indirect. Because if it looks indirect, it might be an easy question that is perceived really hard. Because the other people in the room will be like, I didn't quite get to the question. I mean, it's really easy if it's that, but simultaneously the lecturer introduced this other aspect simultaneously, but didn't push it, so maybe they want us to connect it with that, but that doesn't make any sense. So trying to make direct questions so that people know what you're looking for. And that was number 9. Number 8 then, it's rephrase yes or no questions if possible, and this is the 9th video in the video series, and this is all about making sure that people are understanding what you're saying. This is yet again about controlling the environment, controlling the room. Why is that important? Well, because if you think about it, right? If I say to you, do you get it? Like, I'm stating an entire lecture, and then I'm going to one student, one of 400 students, so 399 other students going to look at this student. When I ask the student, ask the lecturer, and say, do you get it? Or maybe I ask a question about it, and the person just, yet again, looking me dead in the eyes, because this is something that we people are very good at. Looking me dead in the eyes, the student, and you're saying, yes, nodding, without actually having listened to the question. So the student might not even know what I've asked them. So make sure that you make them rephrase yes or no questions. Otherwise, you will probably get into the situation when you're saying, did you get it? And the entire class says, yes. Or if you're a manager, you say, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get the project that we're going to do? They're all saying, yes, we did. and none of them got it. Because that is a real possibility, a real problem that could occur. And everybody's going to say, yes, we got it. And then they didn't, because they didn't understand what it was all about. So try to rephrase that in order to make sure that they actually know, so that they can put their own words to that they know, or that they should put their own words into that they don't know. So that you don't think that I'm doing the best job ever, and then you don't. That was rephrase yes or no questions. Number 7 then, ask one question at a time. And this is the 4th video in the video series. And this is kind of yet again the same thing as ask direct questions. In a way, it's not the same thing, but this is more like make sure that there's one objective out there. Because if I just throw out multiple questions at the same time, and I ask you like, what's the answer? And you will sit there and be like, in isolation, I know all of these questions, right? I know the answer to all of these questions in isolation. But because I need to remember them all, I'm having a really hard time. Why? Because I don't remember them all. Oh. That at least bugs me every time, because that has happened quite a few times in exams, oral exams and stuff like that. People are asking you like 4 or 5 different questions, and you're supposed to both remember them, answer them in a fluent way. I hate that, personally. Hate is a strong word. I strongly dislike that. I think that it's better if you ask one question at a time, and plus that will interact with the person, right? Because you will maybe ask a easy question to begin with, then they will give you an answer, and then you ask them a bit of a harder question. Yet again, you can control the evolution of the discussion. But yes, ask one question at a time. Number 6, make sure that every question is necessary, and this is the 1st video in the video series. Why do you need to make sure that every question is necessary? Well, because if I'm teaching about phones and I start asking questions about cars, chances are you're probably going to drift out of the conversation and just think about something else. A good example of this is quite recently. We were talking about ethics in school, and this one teacher was starting talking about about techno music for about an hour. And that led into 5 minutes of connecting all of that story, that 1 hour story, to ethics. And before that, he had a really good game going there with this theory and all of the things. It was a really good lecture, like a 9.5 out of 10 lecture the first hour. Second hour, most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. Most boring thing I've ever heard about. Because the example was so long, it was so boring, it seemed to have nothing to do with the course for so long, and then connected it in the end. And sure, that was a good point that he made, but still, didn't make any sense. Because simultaneously, over the course of this hour that he was talking about something completely different, he was asking questions about this example that was completely different from the course that we were taking. So most people were just like, this is... What? Before he connected it back to ethics in the end. And it was just like, it doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? So make it every question necessary. Otherwise people will probably drift in and out. Number 5 then. We're coming into the top 5. Keep it short and simple. And this is the second video in the video series. And this is all about keeping it short and simple. Short in the sense that, well, the question should be short so that it doesn't take, 10 minutes for you to formulate the question. But rather like 15 to 30 seconds, so people yet again actually remember the question. And simple, not in the sense that it's supposed to be an easy question or a short discussion, just that it's simplified, like it's a simple one objective question, not a necessary complexity added on by adding in like 15 different objectives in your question, right? But try to have it simple, short and simple. And that was the second video in the video series. Number 4 then. Take your questions for a test drive. And this is arguably yet again one of those points that could be at number 1. And this is the this is the 10th video in the video series. Because when it comes to making sure that your questions actually work, you need to test them at someone first, right? Because otherwise, what will be the point of you having it? Am I right? So you need to make sure that they work in some manner. And that's number 4. Number 3 then, which is the 11th video in the video series, added by me, consider the difference in previous knowledge, like the contextual difference. And this is going to partially be connected to point number 2 here. But think about the contextual difference. If you're a PhD student, for instance, and you go to high school and you're going to, well, make a lecture about something, odds are, or chances are, that you are going to know a lot more about the area in which you're studying a PhD than the people that are going to do in high school, in which they are one of 15 different subjects. I mean, I'm just putting it out there that you probably know a lot more than they do. So you need to consider the language that you're using should be on the level and the simplest level so that the other people know it too. And that all of the terms and all of the, all of the examples that you take up, all of the terminology that you take for granted that they know already, you should reintroduce, and maybe you should keep it plain and simple. And this adds yet again into the second point. Point number 2, speak your respondent's language. And this is the 6th video in the video series. Why is this important? Well, because of the same reasons, basically. You need to consider the terminology, you need to consider the previous knowledge within the field, you need to consider your knowledge in comparison to theirs, and you need to consider what do they actually know, what kind of language are they talking in this class, in this part of the world, what part of societal difference might you have, like the social status quo can also imply something here, not only the academic level of, well, not only the academic difference here in academic levels, but also the social levels. Maybe you're really rich and you go to a really poor neighborhood. Maybe if you're talking about examples I consider very rich people, they will be really alienated from the examples because they will have no understanding and no connection to those examples. That's really bad. But anyway, we need to move into the first point. Number 1. And this is the 5th video in the video series. Avoid leading and biased questions. Yet again, this is kind of like the 10th point by ethical questions implications, but this is basically mostly importantly focused on biased questions. Avoid it. And the interesting part is that when I made this video, like the 5th video rather, I was talking about that it's kind of good actually to use leading and biased questions, even though it was avoiding that was the tip here. Well, you should avoid it because of, well, the group benefits. However, you should really use it by yourself if you're good at it, because that can entirely make you control the entire discussion. You can control groups of people. That probably all of the really good politicians are people who are good with leading and biased questions, because it sounds like you're asking for someone's opinion, but you're really not. You're actually influencing their opinion instead of asking for it, which is brilliant, and I love that. I really like that that's a thing. I really dislike it simultaneously. Like from an academic standpoint, I like it because it's cool, right? That can happen. In the real world, however, that sucks because it just makes every like good person, like every successful person, look like a liar because they probably kind of are. Not a liar, outrageous liar, but like a pathological liar or something who doesn't care about other people. Make you look like that. But of course you should avoid it when you're making questions if you think about the good of the group. And this is yet again why this is at number 1, because if you don't care about the good of the group and you only care about yourself, and this is something that you kind of can't implement at the other points, then you should really do leading and biased questions, because that will benefit you, probably, if you make it subtle and good, and if you're good at it. Anyway, mates, that was everything from me today. The top 12, the top 12 ideas of what is making a good and in-between question. Not too hard, not too easy. Well, I know. Strong finish as usual. Have a nice one, mates, and I'll see you tomorrow with the Saturday news recap. And after that, we're moving into a new project. Have a nice one, mates. See ya.